Welcome back to the Greenfinch Project. Good news today, we're actually working on the bird. I have the piece of paper under my hand, the kind of sacrificial piece of paper, which protects the drawing. And what I've got is a 4H pencil, Faber-Castell 9000 series, as I've mentioned before. But I've sharpened it with a Jacquard electric sharpener, so it's got a super fine and super hard point. Here I'm trying to work out how exactly to make the feathers, and the feathers are actually small hairs. So although I'm working right now with a pencil at an oblique angle, trying to build up some general tone, the marks for the feathers have been created by using the pencil in a very upright, almost perpendicular position, and rapidly flicking it up in very short strokes for the shorter feathers. But what's really important to pay attention to is the fact that different feathers have different functions and they're shaped differently. And so it's very important to try and show these differences by the kinds of strokes that you make and how you intend to make them. Again, some general toning on the front of the crown, just at the top of the beak, and moving backwards across the crown, just to give a sense of form. The curve of the skull from north to south, and then it goes from east to west across the skull from eye to eye. So they've got curving in both directions. Here's a little eyebrow, little crease, which reaches down towards the nape. And again, what I'm doing is I'm kind of mapping out portions of the bird where the feathers are going to be treated in different sections, really. Here I am on the nape and looking at some short diagonal feathers. So just really giving some indication, some little markers there for me about where I'm going to do the work. But it's been a while since I've drawn a bird. In fact, it's been a while since I've done any kind of drawing since a hand injury I sustained. So this is not well rehearsed. But I do know a little bit about birds from bird watching for many years, and I do know the portions of the bird and the kind of directions that the feathers will go in. I discovered that if you hold the pencil at a very low oblique angle and do a backwards and forwards sawing motion, that also creates a nice kind of feathered effect. But here I'm trying to suggest where the tonal values are going to be darker. So here's a shaded part on the underbelly towards the flank of the bird, just under its left wing. It's not completely dark down there. And prior to this, I had put in some markings with the tip of the pencil in that very perpendicular position, as I said, and that had the effect of embossing the paper. So when I laid down that tone, there's actually little white highlights where the feathers are indicated, and I'll go over them with a kind of flicking technique to lengthen the kind of longer strands of feathers. Onto the back here where they join the wings. And again, just trying to get a sense of whereabouts on the bird the different feathers are going to be placed and built up to give that illusion of solid form. This is an embossing tool, and this really speeds up adding small feathers. What I'm doing is I'm scraping into the thick Sea White's Bristol board, and it leaves an indent so that if I use the pencil at an oblique angle like this, it can create texture very, very quickly. There, just like that. Now, I'm drawing with a little bit more conviction here because I know where the portions are and I'm beginning to have a sense of the modelling of the form. What's really important when doing feathers, and fur for that matter, is that the direction of the strokes follows the shape of the form underneath. And so mapping in these tones and dividing up the bird into these different portions helps me remember. It's actually just a memory aid for me, but it helps me to remember what kind of stroke in what kind of direction on top of a tonal form map, if you like. There's those short strokes down towards the hand this time rather than flicking away. The problem that I face here is that the contrast between the background and the bird will get lost because basically the greenfinch in amongst all that greenery, or in this case the greyfinch in amongst all that graphite, has a danger of being lost. So what I resolved upon was to make the most of the texture so that the strokes would create a kind of textural difference, a textural contrast between the scratchiness of the bird and the kind of smooth blended tones that have been used to create the foliage. So I hope that information helps. Sometimes when you're drawing, you just have to figure out things as you go. So that's what I tried to do with this little portion here, and I hope it helps. This area here is going to be grey. It's going to be a smooth grey area when we get there on the painted area, so I want that to be a grisaille that shows through. Okay, so thanks for watching, and do please join me for the next installment.